And now, for fans of the most exciting sport in the world, the MMA Live Chat Hour. Listen up and find out what's happening in the world of MMA. Hello and welcome to the MMA Live Chat Hour. I'm Rich Davie and it's Saturday, January 11th, 2014, the weekend before the UFC Fight Night 35 Rockhold vs. Philippou event. This is the first show of the new year, so Happy New Year to everybody. And here's wishing everybody a healthy and prosperous new year. I'm doing things a little different for this show. I have all new guests on the show today. Joining me on the show today are yours truly, Wes Fiorentino, Damon Gazelle, and David Petruitt. On today's show, we'll be discussing our UFC Fight Night 35 Rockhold vs. Philippou event predictions for the main card this coming Wednesday night on January 15th, the unfolding situation with Anderson Silva's broken leg, Silva's expressed desire to return to MMA, his rumored desire to fight GSP upon his return, and as usual, we'll talk about a couple other things in the off-topic final thoughts segment as well. Okay, guys, thanks for taking part in today's show. I appreciate you all taking the time to be here and join me for another round of predictions. Go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Howdy.
How's everybody doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Good day up in Canada.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's kick things off here. This is actually Season 2 of the prediction shows that we've been doing. So this is going to be round 1 of our MMA fight predictions for Season 2. Here's how we do the scoring for the picks that we make. If you pick the correct fighter but don't get the correct method or round, you get 4 points. If you pick the correct fighter and method or the correct fighter and round, you earn 7 points. If you pick the correct fighter, round, and method or correctly call the winner by decision, you earn 10 points. All right, let's jump right into things here, guys. The UFC Fight Night 35 Rockhold vs. Philippou event. The main card is on Fox Sports 1 at 7 o'clock p.m. this coming Wednesday, January 15th, 2014. How do you guys see that one unfolding?
Well, I think this one's probably, I mean, it's going to be competitive, I want to say, but, you know, I mean, Rockhold is going to be a monster coming off that really he's probably pretty embarrassed about that loss to Vitor Belfort. You know, and he's been out for a while. You know, it's pretty well known that he's been training his butt off. So I'm probably gonna have to go with Rockhold on this one, probably by decision.
You got to remember too, Philippou's just coming off a loss as well, so he's wanting to avenge that loss. And Philippou's actually been looking pretty good. I like Rockhold as well. I think the styles are gonna make a great match because Philippou is definitely a power striker, whereas Rockhold, I think he's more all around, and I do think this is going to go to a decision, and I do think Rockhold will eventually take the decision.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm looking at it unfold. Both fighters, they seem to like the stand-up game. I haven't seen either one of them do anything impressive as far as being able to really dominate and finish an opponent in that manner. So, yeah, I would have to go with Rockhold decision.
Wow. That's weird. We start right off the bat all the same way because I'm going with Rockhold by decision as well. I went and, you know, I'm the guy who goes and then I don't pick by my heart any longer. I go and I look at all the numbers and everything. Yeah. Looking at all the numbers, I mean, everything favors Rockhold.
Yeah, absolutely, you know.
Yeah, but this is MMA. Anything can happen.
That's
on
true.
any given night.
Absolutely,
I think Rockhold has kind of the game as well that will nullify Philippou. I think it'll alter how Philippou fights the fight. I think Rockhold will come in with a stronger game plan. So
Absolutely.
I think that's where he's going to outperform him.
I think Rockhold's going to control timing and distance. I mean, Philippou apparently has this boxing pedigree, but I mean, obviously he's a power striker, but a really chiseled boxing pedigree is not really what I see when I see him fight. I see him throw wild punches, and I kind of see that playing right into Luke Rockhold's hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it really doesn't favor him when you look at the numbers here, because Luke Rockhold's 6'3", 77-inch reach.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those numbers there. Plus, Rockhold is younger as well, and there's some stats out there and things like that that indicate when you have, a difference of age 5 years, that tends to favor the younger fellow.
Absolutely, especially when you've got the physical attributes like that.
Exactly. Yeah, and then Rockhold's also with the American Kickboxing Academy, and Philippou is fighting out there on Long Island with the Cerro Longo, or training with the Cerro Longo fight team.
Yeah, I mean, you're training with Ken Velasquez on a daily basis. I mean, not to mention, all the other monsters they've got over there at AKA, but that's got to count for something. I mean, you're training against the best in the world on a daily basis.
Exactly.
That's going to bring your game up a notch or two.
Yeah, when I went out and looked at things too, it seemed like the fans were heavily favoring Rockhold as well, and odds makers are looking to favor Rockhold by a pretty significant margin. So all those things we're discussing here, it seems to look like more than likely we're all probably going to get this one correct.
Well, I think it's going to be a good fight because just following on Twitter, I've seen both fighters are really, really eager to get back in the octagon and have a good performance. So I think we're going to see an impressive performance from both fighters, but yeah, with Rockhold taking the decision.
Yeah, and if you look at their fighter history too, Rockhold has definitely fought more seasoned fighters than Philippou.
Absolutely.
And that's going to factor in, I believe, as well. The experience is going to, I think, trump them tonight, or not tonight, but Wednesday night.
Absolutely, yeah. There's definitely something to be said about experience. I mean, when you got a guy, especially like Philippou, who's going to come with, I don't want to say predictable game, but I mean, I think we all know the kind of things he brings to the table. It's like he really can't bring anything that Rockhold hasn't seen before, right? There's nothing you can throw at Rockhold that Rockhold hasn't been hit with in the past.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for him to get inside too with that disadvantage that he's.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments on that one before we move on?
I think just that it might be probably the easiest fight on the card to call, or at least it looks that way now. I might be eating some crow come Wednesday night, but I doubt it.
This is MMA. Anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
A punch can slip. It happens.
Yeah, we've all been shocked and surprised before by fight outcomes when they look like a sure fight. Look what happened in that last event, with Travis Brown and Barnett. Everyone, all the fans and all the odds makers were going with Barnett, and look what happened.
I mean, obviously hindsight is 20/20, but I just don't get how anybody can really bet on Barnett against a young, tough heavyweight, from this new generation. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
That's what I looked
Especially
at.
with that massive reach advantage and height advantage.
Yeah.
That's what I looked at.
Imagine
afterwards.
People trying to take him down against the fence anymore. With those elbows. I mean,
no, thank you.
2 in a row, and it's bam. Yeah. I mean.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Lorenz Larkin versus Brad Tavares. How do you guys see that one unfolding?
This one's definitely a little tougher to call. I mean, Brad Tavares is definitely a tough guy. He's been in there a few times now in the UFC. Lorenz Larkin's definitely got the flashy kickboxing game. I think everybody knows about that. I'm going to go with Lorenz Larkin on this one, probably also by unanimous decision, although I wouldn't be shocked at all by knockout. But I'm going to go with the decision on this one for Larkin.
Yeah, I actually have this one going to a decision as well. But let's see, I'm actually picking Tavares, and I think he's starting to come into his own. I mean, he hasn't been as experienced, coming from the Ultimate Fighter and everything, but he's looking promising, and anything can happen. Like I said, in MMA, it's going to be a good, grueling fight, I think, and we'll just have to see how things pan out. But I'm actually going to go with Tavares on this one.
Yeah, I was looking at that fight with a lot of interest. I think it has really good potential to be a great fight. If the fight stays on the feet, I think absolutely Larkin has the advantage there. Just from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like Tavares will be able to kind of match that skill set that he has. This one I'm hopefully picking as a KO second round Larkin. That's what I'd like to see. Hopefully that's what happens. But I think he's just I think Larkin's really coming into his own, and I think he has way too much skill standing up for him.
Yeah, I'm a little conflicted in this one because, as you guys know, I like to look at the stats and the numbers and everything like that, and I make my decision that way rather than going by the heart of who I actually think is going to win. And when I look at the stats and the numbers and everything here, things look to favor Tavares, but I'm going to go against the grain in this one, and I'm also picking Lorenz Larkin by decision. Looking at what odds makers and fans are saying, Larkin is a huge fan favorite, and odds makers are giving Larkin a slight edge when it comes to being the favorite. So fan favorite and odds makers favorite, I'm going with Larkin by decision.
All right.
Yeah, it was a tough fight to look at.
Huh?
Yeah.
It was a tough fight to look at. There was factors playing for both fighters. It was wasn't an easy decision who to go with.
Yeah, I don't know. I just
Larkin by KO in 2 is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. TKO round 2.
It's a gutsy pick. I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I just remember. Sorry.
Well, that was one that I was thinking may have potential to be the KO of the night. I think Larkin, what I've seen him show, like I've seen him show enough flash that he has that potential to do it. I hate to see a card where I look at all the fights and I can't even see one having that potential of being a big knockout. I don't like that. So looking at this card, that was one that I was hoping was going to be the knockout of the night. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember Brad Tavares struggling with Phil Baroni, of all people,
Yeah.
before he
Right.
finally got the knockout, and it's just, Lorenz Larkin is not Phil Baroni. It's simple as
but when I
that.
look at the past history or recent history of these guys fighting, they're both decision fighters as of late. So that's why I went with the decision too, because I don't really see, with their latest mentality and fight plan that they're going into the fights with, that somebody's going to get a TKO. But you never know; it might happen.
He's had some big wins, Tavares. I mean, Dongi Yang, I remember, was a big deal for a little while, And then the Ricky Fukuda fight, I can't remember. There was one fight I remember a little while back where everyone thought Fukuda got robbed, and I can't remember if that was this fight or not. But I mean, he's in the win column as far as that's concerned, as far as the books are concerned. But
yeah, I'm looking at that now.
Yeah, he's got 4 straight wins. So I mean, he's gaining experience in the UFC, and that's a big test. And it's going to be a good fight. Like I said, I'm picking him. I might be wrong, but I think he might be gaining the experience to actually hang in there.
Well, Tavares, I mean, like I was saying when I was looking at it, he does have a great opportunity to really use, basically take him down. What I saw from Larkin is that he leaves a big gap in that game and leaves himself open to ground and pound and being taken down. So, I mean, there is that factor for Tavares to kind of, I guess, steal it from him, being the fan favorite and such. So.
Yeah, I mean, Larkin is coming off some pretty big performances too. I mean, obviously he lost to Carmont, but that's Carmont. I think we all know how we feel about Carmont. But I mean, Robbie Lawler, Mo Lawal. Obviously, the Lawal fight didn't go too well.
Yeah.
But I mean, aside from the whole, PED thing, I mean, Mo Lawal probably didn't it look like Mo Lawal had at least 10 pounds on him in that fight?
Yeah.
I mean, when he can move against a guy his own size, I just think he's super dangerous. You know, he was a great performance against Robbie Lawler. You know, Chris Camozzi's no Robbie Lawler, but I mean, he looked good in that fight too. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do on Wednesday night.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it should be interesting, no doubt. Both of them orthodox stance fighters. Larkin, primarily a striker with boxing, and like you guys were mentioning, Tavares, a striker with wrestling capability and Muay Thai. So who knows? It may turn out opposite of what everybody else is thinking, except for Damon.
Yeah.
Anything else on that one? You guys want to talk any more about that one?
No, I'm good.
All right,
Okay.
so yeah, next up we've got Beneil Dariush versus Charlie the Spaniard Brenneman. You know, fight against an undefeated up-and-comer. First fight in the UFC, I believe, against a sort of a veteran journeyman making his return to the UFC, trying to prove he belongs. I think it's a pretty good storyline, you know. One of these up-and-coming phenoms with a lot of stoppages, a lot of stoppage wins against sort of a gritty wrestler who's been in there with some pretty big-name guys over the years. So how do you guys see this one playing out?
Go ahead, Damon.
The Brenneman fight?
Yeah.
I think Charlie Brenneman's actually he's got a lot of experience, you know.
Oh yeah.
But Dariush, you know, he's got a perfect record as of right now, but
I don't really expect too much of him from him on the feet, I should say. So, Damon, you picked.
How did you see that one unfolding, Damon?
I'm going with Brenneman just on his experience. Dariush, yeah, he's undefeated, but he's not really tasted the UFC very much, and
Exactly.
and the UFC is a whole different league.
And how do you think he's going to win?
I'm going with decision.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of knockouts as of late, and it seems to be a trend. Usually, when you see a lot of knockouts, then you start to see a lot of decision fights. I'm only picking one fight that's actually going to be a TKO this card, or actually the main event card.
Don't let Dana White hear you say that.
Well, if it was a pay-per-view, it'd be one thing, but it's a free per-view, so you know,
Yeah.
I don't see people. You know, they're gonna want to stay with the UFC, but it's not like a pay-per-view where people are paying money and they're really getting on them to go out
Absolutely.
there and perform.
A lot of these fighters, though, and that's kind of the way I look at it as well, is when you're on these events, going for stuff like the knockout of the night, submission of the night, fight of the night, also is a big deal because they're not getting near the money that the fighters on the pay-per-view events get. So I think incentives that way just for the fighter itself, as opposed to the actual promoters saying, you know, you guys got to go out and get lots of knockouts tonight. I think the incentive is actually put on the fighter for the paycheck. That's my opinion with that. For this fight, though, the Brenneman Dariush, definitely a game fighter. He comes into scrap. I think Brenneman himself might have a little too much experience for him. Dariush seems to be a little sloppy. Tough one to pick because I know Dariush is this is a big fight for him. If he wins this, his stock's definitely in his favor. And again, for Brenneman, kind of a do-or-die situation for him.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm going to have to go with Brenneman by decision. I think we may see some good submission attempts from Brenneman. I don't know if he'll be able to finish it, but I'm going to go with Brenneman by decision.
Yeah, I too am going with Brenneman by decision. I was a little conflicted as to whether or not I wanted to go that way because of the submissions that we've been looking at in his recent string of fights. So I was a little conflicted whether or not I wanted to go sub into or decision. But yeah, I ultimately went with Brenneman by decision. So again, that's kind of like Brenneman favorite, not only by fans in a huge margin, but also by the odds makers too. And then you got to look at the experience as well. And even though, some of the physical stats would seem to favor Dariush, I went with Brenneman by decision.
Yeah, and isn't this his first fight in the UFC, or?
I believe so.
Dariush, yeah.
So we're gonna have to see how the octagon jitters are gonna play into it as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
and
You've seen a lot of fighters that have suffered, and you've seen
Yeah.
some that have actually come out and made their debut like none other.
From the look of it, Dariush has also fought in front of a lot of hometown kind of favored crowds, where you can hear them
absolutely.
chanting his name in the background and stuff while the other fighters getting wailed on. But yeah, I think that might play a little bit of a factor because it's a completely different event there. So
Yeah, you're going from the minor leagues to the major leagues. And
Oh, yeah.
some people don't make that transition too well.
So yeah,
Holding less.
I'm gonna break the trend. I'm gonna go with Dariush on this one. I'm gonna take a risky pick.
nice.
I mean, I definitely think the matchup, just the nature of the matchup, his first fight in the UFC, Charlie Brenneman's dropping weight, he's got something to prove, That definitely seems to favor Brenneman, but at the same time, that's kind of like abstract type stuff, you know what I mean? There's abstract intangibles, and then there's, facts that speak for themselves, and I'm gonna go with Dariush on this one. I'm gonna call stoppage, TKO in the second round. I just think we've seen just about everything that Brenneman has to offer, and I'm not saying that means automatically he's going to lose this fight, but as long as Dariush has, a half decent training camp, I think he knows what Brenneman's going to be bringing to the table, right? Obviously that's not to say that he automatically wins this.
Yeah.
But
I do expect Dariush to come out and play. Oh yeah, that's just from how I've seen him fight. I think he is going to come out and bring it to Brenneman. So.
And I see what you guys are saying about him being reckless, but I think we've seen guys be pretty reckless against Brenneman before and come out on top in pretty spectacular fashion.
Mm-hmm.
The Anthony Johnson ridiculous head kick knockout comes to mind. Say what you will about the early stoppage, but Brenneman was pretty out of it after that kick. And he was, up against Anthony Johnson. All of a sudden, he leaves his head out there. It's just brutal,
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna go with Dariush on this one. It wouldn't shock me at all if Brenneman comes out and does his best quilt impression for about 3 rounds. But yeah, I'm just gonna go with Dariush on this one. I'm gonna see
Okay,
what
so that was
kick
3
is.
of us going with Brenneman by decision, and you're going the other way with Dariush by TKO in 2.
Yeah.
Am I correct, guys?
Absolutely.
Okay, I do have one question. I heard somebody mention that Brenneman is in a bit of a sticky situation. He needs to win this one.
Well, he's sort of coming back to the UFC after a little while off. He definitely is. He definitely has a couple wins in a row. But this seems like one of those situations where the UFC is just filling a fight card, fill a fight card. I don't think Dana White really thinks Charlie Brenneman is going to go on a tear. Least of all at 155.
And that's what I thought when they were giving him Dariush. I didn't think that was kind of a next level fighter you would see him go against. Actually, for a new guy coming in, I didn't think that would be a fight we would see. So
yeah, well, it almost looks like he's being thrown to the wolves because
it's bizarre.
5, and Dariush is 6-0-0. So and again,
I see what you mean. Yeah.
It is possible they are giving him Dariush Brenneman because they want to showcase Dariush. You never know. It's not a pay-per-view.
It's bizarre.
It's a lower end. It's a free card. They could be just trying to set up Dariush to win to get him.
Yeah, let's see if
started
this
in
kid
UFC.
can go out there and knock this guy out on live
Right?
television. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's an interesting one. I thought it was a bizarre one for sure.
It's one of those fights where it's like, okay, let's bring this undefeated kid in here and see what he can do against a veteran. Try to paint the picture the way they want to do it, even though it is Charlie Brenneman.
Well, like I was saying, if Dariush wins, his stock is gonna go through the roof. But
he has
Brenneman.
more win here than Brenneman.
Yeah.
Does anyone really think that Brenneman's going to make a run at 155 of all divisions?
No.
No way.
Exactly.
All right, then should we move on?
That sounds good to me.
All right, so yeah, next up we've got T.J. Dillashaw, the former Ultimate Fighter finalist, against Mike the Hulk Easton. I don't know about you guys, but I think this is probably one of the most exciting cards on the fight. I mean, pardon me, one of the most exciting fights on the card on paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
I totally agree.
I'm pretty pumped about this one.
So this one's probably going to be fight of the night then, huh?
Wouldn't be shocked. Would not be shocked.
No.
Definitely not shocked.
It's going to have the most action, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I think just the way Dillashaw, he always comes up with a good game plan.
Oh yeah, he's got a great camp behind him.
Yeah, he comes out to fight. He's good with on his feet, good boxer. And Easton, I think he's just going to bring it to him right from the get-go. I wouldn't be surprised if the Hulk just gets right in there and starts swinging away. This one, it was, again, tough because just looking at the fighters and seeing recent performances, but I had to go with Dillashaw by decision and fight of the night for that fight. So
we got one for Dillashaw?
Yeah, I think Dillashaw is just going to I think he's going to stay away. I think he's going to get more significant strikes. I think he's going to just have a better game plan and kind of nullify Easton's game in that manner. Not that Easton isn't going to absolutely bring it to him and try to knock him out, but I think Dillashaw is just going to be a little bit of a smarter fighter on Wednesday night and get the decision.
Yeah, I actually think Dillashaw is one of the better looking prospects from the Ultimate Fighter that's fighting right now. I'm also going with him for the decision. He's got such a great overall styles or skill set that I don't know if Easton's going to be able to handle it. I think he might actually punch himself out trying to catch him.
Yeah.
But, it is the UFC. One of those punches could land, but I think Dillashaw is smart enough. I think he's learned from his last fight where he lost, and he's worked harder. I think he's going to come out, and I think he's going to take it to a decision. I think he's going to try and nullify Easton's game plan and pretty much keep it on the ground and go to a decision.
Yeah, this is one that I was a bit conflicted on myself because when I'm looking at the numbers here, man, with the reach, 70-inch reach, that's a 4-inch reach advantage over Dillashaw. So being that Easton is a striker, if he can get it to stay on the feet with his Muay Thai and everything like that, he might benefit from that. But I'm thinking the same thing. It's probably going to be Dillashaw taking things to the ground. And, yeah, I'm going with Dillashaw, too, by decision.
Yeah,
Wow.
What's the age difference, actually?
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reach thing to me is if they know how to utilize it, like John Jones knows how to utilize his reach. We'll just have to see, but if you don't know how to utilize it, you're not very good. If you're just swinging haymakers and stuff like that, your reach is just your reach.
Exactly. You're not really playing to your strengths,
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus, he's in a bad spot, too, because he's got 2 losses in a row, right?
Yeah, they're actually. Dillashaw's coming off a loss to a Sun Sao. I don't know, Easton, one of those 2 straight losses is to a Sun Sao as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty interesting
Yeah,
to see.
Well, Dillashaw keeps his hands up and his chin down, so that's how I looked at him, really like being able to kind of not get hit really bad. So I think then that wrestling factor does come into play when Easton, maybe throws one of those wild haymakers and bam, Dillashaw's going to be able to take that fight to the ground.
So is that 3 of us so far that say Dillashaw by decision?
I'd say Dillashaw by decision. I know that.
There, we got it unanimous.
So we're waiting for West now.
Oh,
I am not gonna break the trend this time. I'm gonna go Dillashaw. Alpha male wrestler. He's in there with those animals every single day. Faber, Money Mendez, and Benavidez. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
But
that whole camp seems to be on a tear lately.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. I mean, and Mike Easton is no joke. Obviously, we've seen him over the years in some pretty exciting fights. But I mean, Dillashaw is just, he's just a monster. He's going out there with he's got neck cranks. He's going out there with head kicks, punches. Along with the wrestling base, which just seems to really benefit these alpha male fighters. I'm
Well,
going to have to go Dillashaw on this one.
And have you noticed the new and improved striking from Team Alpha Male as well? Like,
Yeah, exactly. You know,
very impressive. That is great.
Well,
Yeah.
Ludwig's been training him, right?
yeah, he's the new
Yep.
kickboxing coach over there. I want to say.
Bang Ludwig, yeah, that's it's benefited their team a lot actually.
Definitely.
Does
Makes
anybody
them
know
less
what Easton is
one-dimensional.
making in the octagon fighting for the UFC?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest.
Because, we're looking here at 2 losses in a row. If he loses this one, he's making any sort of decent money. You can almost guarantee he'll be let go.
I don't know. It's hard to say. At
Well, if he's not
bantamweight,
making big money, they'll probably keep him.
I mean, I don't think he's making big money. I mean, I don't think he hasn't headlined the card yet that I know of. And I mean, at bantamweight's just one of those divisions where it still hasn't really, it's not featherweight, right? I mean, and featherweight isn't even that deep of a division, but talent-wise, I just don't think bantamweight's deep. So I don't think that we're going to look at I don't think the loser's going to get a pink slip, even if it is Mike Easton.
I haven't seen many of the lighter fighters actually get that pink slip from Danny yet, really, and over the last couple of years. Just it seems maybe that's how they're trying to develop the division and get people interested in it. So
Well, he favors the guys who are more active and not laying prey.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which I think is Mike Easton in spades.
yeah, there you go.
But I think it's also this idea that the lower divisions are still kind of developing as talent pools. So what do you have to gain from cutting a guy when you don't necessarily have the talent to replace him?
That's right.
You might as well keep him around, especially a guy like Mike Easton, who is entertaining, who does go out there, for the finish.
Well, and he can be, as they call it, like the old guard of the division. I mean, if there's an up and comer,
There's that too, yeah.
He'll always be a game opponent to come in there and swing. So.
And he's fought some of those relatively big name bantamweights to this point
Absolutely.
too. So he does have that veteran pedigree, you could say. He's fought the Chase Beebys, the Brad Pickett's. He fought Ivan Menjivar. He beat Ivan Menjivar. That was a pretty impressive performance. Yeah. And Menjivar, I don't think anyone's going to mistake him for a world #1 bantamweight anytime soon. But man, he goes out there to fight every time.
I actually interviewed Ivan Menjivar last year, and
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's in a bit of a spot because I thought I just saw that he's going to fight on the Tough finale in China or something like that.
Yeah, he's fighting Hatsu Hiyoki. That's going to be that's a tall order, man, right now.
And I thought I read that he's going to be cut if he does not win that fight.
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, he's fought some pretty tough guys, but I mean, he's got 1 win in his last 4 fights, right? I mean, that's never a good sign, even in a division like 135 in the UFC.
Yep.
You gotta get at least a couple W's if you're gonna stick around here.
That's right.
Any other thoughts on that?
So, do we all say Dillashaw by decision? Is that what everybody said?
That was unanimous.
Yes, it was.
Which is funny because I think that's probably the hardest fight on the card to call.
Yeah. Yeah, fight of the night potential for sure.
I wouldn't be shocked at all. Yeah.
That's 2 fights that we're unanimous on.
There we go. All right, well, we'll see how this next one goes with Yoel Romero versus Derek Brunson. Looked at both fighters. When I first saw this matchup, I was so excited. I thought this one is going to be just excellent. Then as I looked more and more into it, I think, I kind of looked at it differently. I think this one is going to go the full length and go to decision. Both ex-Strike Force fighters. I think they do have something to prove in the UFC if they do want to get to the pay-per-view cards. Maybe even make a run at the title. I have Brunson in this one. I think he might just be a little too much and able to actually stay away from Romero. But I think it's going to be Brunson by decision. So that's how I'm going with that one.
Wes?
I'm going to go with Brunson as well on this one. I think both fighters coming into the UFC have a lot of question marks around them, to be honest. And Romero has looked good in the past, but Brunson, he's had some tough losses, but they were against some pretty big name opponents, or at least relatively speaking with Strikeforce. He's been in there with Ronaldo Souza, been in there with Kendall Grove. Obviously, he got the win over Chris Lieben, although I was more impressed with his win over Brian Houston. And yeah, I just think we're seeing more improvement from fight to fight with Brunson. So I'm going to go with Brunson. I think it's going to be a close fight, though. Definitely by decision. But I wouldn't be shocked if it was a bit of a controversial split decision. It wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah, I'm actually going across against the grain on this one. I think Romero is actually going to TKO Brunson in the second. This is, like I said, the only one I am picking as a TKO for the card. He's got that knockout power, and I think he wants to show the UFC that he's got it. And I think he wants to make his way up, and I think he's going to bring it.
Yeah, I'm a bit conflicted on this one too, because as I look at the numbers, everything tells me to favor Derek Brunson in this one, but I'm not feeling it, man. And when I look at what fans are saying and what odds makers are saying, it leads me to want to go with Romero. And I initially was like, damn it, I wanted to say TKO in 2, but I'm going. No, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Damon, so he's not standing alone. Romero by TKO in 2.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, we've seen the crazy, flashy knockouts from Romero, but I mean, you know, we haven't seen him in the UFC, you know.
Yeah, I think Brunson's going to stay away from him. When he had taken that fight against Lieben on the 8 days' notice or whatever, and Lieben, who's got bombs in both fists, he couldn't do anything against him. And I think Brunson's going to play that same game. I think he's going to stay away from Romero's power and grind out a decision. I was so excited for this fight. And then as I was looking at the fighters, I became less and less excited, just seeing their styles and how even when they've gone up against similar opponents to those styles, how they actually fight. I lost excitement for this fight pretty quick, actually. Not going to lie. But I would hope. I'm always one of those people that hopes for the big, flashy knockout. So I'd hope Romero would go in there and clean his clock. But yeah, after thinking about it and just seeing the fighters, I'm going to have to stick with Brunson by decision, and maybe even the controversial decision. Actually, I like that, Wes. That was it might be the split decision. So,
well,
yeah, you never see those coming. Sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You got to think too. Romero, he's not new. He's already had 2 wins in the UFC, so he doesn't have the jitters. Yeah. He doesn't have the jitters coming in. I mean, he looks good.
He did look good in that last fight, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then Brunson, he fought Kendall Grove. Was that when he was still in the UFC, or was that elsewhere?
That was I think in a smaller show. That was a couple of years ago at this point, I think, right?
Oh, was that in the Hawaiian show that Grove was supposed to be the big wheel in?
I can't remember the name
promotion?
of that.
I can't think of the name of it.
I remember that. Yeah, was that a one and done?
It was Brian Houston, right?
That was his last fight. Yeah, in the UFC.
Yeah, fight for the troops.
Yeah.
Right. Brunson looks good, but I'm really. I like Romero.
I know. Like I said earlier, when you said TKO, I was thinking TKO, and then when you brought it up again, I went actually back and looked at his record, and it looks like he's going for TKO all the time, because his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights are, 4 wins by TKO and 1 loss by TKO. So he's going out there to get a TKO or get KO.
Yeah, it just seems like a pretty undisciplined approach against lesser named fighters than a couple of guys that Derek Brunson has fought. He's been in there with some pretty big name guys at this point. Obviously, he lost to Jacare Souza, but that's not necessarily a strike against him at this point in time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he won a decision over Lieben too. I don't recall how that fight went. Did you guys?
I watched it, and it was Lieben, putting his head down, coming forward, throwing big punches, and Brunson, sticking and moving. and yeah, grinding out a decision that way.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good performance by Brunson. I mean,
Yeah.
it was good for him to stay disciplined and not get clocked by Lieben. But at the same time,
right.
a win over Chris Lieben is not what it used to be. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm more.
Is he done now? Did he retire?
I'm not sure.
Nope. I follow him on Twitter, and no, he hasn't. There hasn't been anything said about him stepping away. So
he quit the fight in the first round. After the first round.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign. When he quit that fight, I thought he was actually quitting his career because he was like, I'm fucking done, I'm out of here.
Well, he was basically knocked out between rounds there. I mean, he was basically done. He was unconscious.
He even asking if he got knocked out. So
I mean, to me, that says if he wants to keep fighting again, you need to might want to call it a quits in this particular fight.
Yeah, they gave him good credit for actually doing that, saying like, a lot of fighters they'll even just go back in, but they gave him credit for not.
Yeah, I mean, would Chris Lieben have done that 5 years ago? I highly doubt it.
No way.
Yeah, no way. But
I worry for the guy. I like Chris Lieben, man. But,
me too.
He's
I think it's time for him to walk away, man. He can't keep on fighting the style of fight that he fights and hope to have a healthy future.
No,
it's funny.
Not.
I feel that exact same affinity, I guess, that Dana White feels for the season 1 tough fighters. You just, I guess, even though I was watching UFC beforehand, and just seeing them in their own environment and their own element kind of just made it that more personal. So yeah, I do have a soft spot for those particular fighters, but a lot of them, their roads are done now. So.
Yeah, you think of the Nate Quarries,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because back again, at that time, it saved the UFC, and that's what made the UFC the success that it is today, or that's what's credited to that.
And so many guys, so many guys from that season stuck around for so long. It did big things, Kenny Florian, Josh Koscheck,
Yeah.
I mean
Koscheck, I'm getting scared for now. Oh my goodness, the way Tyron Woodley finished him that last fight.
Man.
Oh my goodness.
That was pretty scary, man. I don't know.
That was scary. I'm like, please just retire, bro. That's it. That's it for you.
Yeah. I just think Romero. I mean, how many times have we seen guys come out of the woodwork from Eastern Europe or Brazil, with these flashy knockouts, these crazy fights, and when they get to the UFC, they start fighting some more disciplined guys with better training regimens, better training partners, who've been in there with the bigger name fighters with the experience, and they just can't get it done like they used to be able to. This isn't one of these smaller shows where you're fighting these guys that you can just clown, put a clown suit on and knock their heads into the third row. I just don't see that happening in this fight.
Yeah, so we're split right down the middle on this. Wes and David going with Brunson by decision. Damon and myself are going with Romero by TKO in 2. So
it seems like it almost has to be one or the other, right? Who knows? Watch Derek Brunson get a freaking flying triangle choke in the second round and make us all look like fools.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. The last fight on the card is Cole Miller against Sam Cecilia. This is looking to be probably a pretty good fight. They're both veteran fighters. It's a good way to start the card out. I'm actually going to go with Sam Cecilia by decision. I just think he's going to be the better fighter on Wednesday night. And Cole Miller has always been good, but Sam Cecilia is really looking good.
Okay, I guess I'll go next.
And did you say decision?
Yeah, decision.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to go with Cole Miller myself. I mean, I'm looking at 6'1", 73-inch reach, 5'7", 66-inch reach. Plus we know Miller. I mean, that gives him pretty much a big advantage standing up because Cecilia has the punching power, but is he going to be able to overcome a significant reach and height advantage that Miller's going to enjoy? And then Miller's also got the 6 submissions too, so. Looking at also what odds makers are saying and fans are saying, it seems that everybody is favoring Miller. So I am going with Miller by submission in round 2.
Thanks for stealing my pick.
So you're going to go with that as well?
Oh yeah. That's my submission of the night fight. So Miller second. I'm thinking rear naked. Even I'll go that far.
Wow.
And
Yep.
2?
Yep.
And how did you go, Damon?
I'm actually going with Sam Cecilia
By decision?
by decision. Yeah, they both have spotty records right now, and like I said, Sam Cecilia last fight I seen him, he looked pretty good, and I I I think maybe Cole Miller might have the experience on him, but I definitely think that Cecilia is he he's got he's younger. I don't think the reach advantage is really going to play in too terribly much on this one either. I think it's pretty much going to be testing each other out. You
I
know,
don't know, man. Six-inch
whoever,
height advantage, and what are we looking at? 7-inch reach advantage. That's pretty significant.
yeah, it can be, but you know, it also can work against you as well. It's
I
it's
don't
we've
think
seen,
it's going to be a
we've seen those
standard.
power punchers once they get inside, like the
Yeah.
Mike Tysons. Once they get inside on that big reach, you're in trouble. You know, how many times have we seen Stefan Struve get knocked out in ridiculous fashion? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Miller's going to be foolish enough to do that, knowing the punching power that Cecilia has.
Yeah.
No, I'm probably going to agree with you there. Before I give my pick, I just want to say I'm going to say right off the bat, Cole. I think we've seen a lot of the best of what Cole Miller has to offer in the last couple of years. Obviously, he's been anything but consistent the last couple of years. I do think he takes this one. I'm going to be a little gutsy and say submission as well. Probably either a guillotine or a rear naked choke in maybe the second round. Maybe the third round. If Cecilia starts to gas a little bit, it's hard to say if that'll happen or not. Obviously,
Don't be
you mentioned
wishy-washy on it. Wishy-washy, pick around.
I'll go second round. I'll stay on the bandwagon there. You mentioned the physical attributes he's got on Cecilia, but I mean, he's also got the technique to back it up, right? I mean, we've seen him go out there and outbox guys like Ross Pearson. I mean, obviously that was a couple years ago at this point.
Yeah.
He's beaten Bart Palashevsky. That was a big feather in his cap, even though he came back with a loss against Gambarian. But we've seen him get back in the win column against Andy Ogle, who is, he's definitely no Matt Wyman, but I just think overall he's fought the better higher level caliber opponents, and I think he's come out on top against enough of them for me to say he probably gets the win here. I don't think he's going to do much with it, and if I had to say moving forward after this fight, I'd say Cecilia is probably going to be moving upwards more than Cole Miller, but I think this time around Cole Miller is going to get his hand raised.
See, the reason why I'm picking Cecilia is because Cole Miller, he knows Cole Miller's game. He knows to look out for the submission, and as long as he can keep from being submitted, he's got a good chance. And it's when you got a guy that wins most of his fights by submission, you look for that. You make your game plan around that, and you fight around that. And I think fighters that are too one-dimensional do end up having they make what would you call it? They give themselves a disadvantage by letting other fighters know how they fight. They're pretty predictable, and that's one thing you never want to be in MMA is predictable. So I'm still gonna go with Sam Cecilia. I could be wrong.
You're sticking to your guns. We didn't sway you one bit, did we?
No.
I like that. Yeah, I do think Cole Miller he's got some boxing chops though. Obviously a lot of his wins are by submission, and I don't think it's any secret that a lot of times he does like to take it to the ground. But we saw him outbox Ross Pearson a couple years back. I mean that was a while ago at this point, but wouldn't shock me at all if we maybe saw Cecilia's face get a little marked up before this goes to the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Miller seems to be a smart fighter. I've never met the gentleman, but it seems like he does come in and try to implement a game plan. That is kind of one of the reasons why I was going with him, and just the height and reach. I think it's just perfectly kind of falls into his submission game, even though you're right. His opponent is going to be staying away from that, but I think when it gets as the fight goes on, not being able to reach him, I think he's going to leave himself more open to possibly Miller's game plan, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
He's going to have to rush inside in order to get
Yes.
past that height and reach advantage, and then I could see Wes's point where Miller might even get a guillotine because of that.
Yeah.
Or even just circle away and come with a 1-2 all night.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, let's move on, guys. That was the last fight on the main card. Any fights on the preliminary card that you want to talk about? Let's not spend too much time on that because we do have some other things we want to speak about. But
I don't know. Maybe just mention the John Moraga Dustin Ortiz fight as a fight that I think could easily be on the main card on a smaller card like this. I think those guys are both very exciting fighters.
I agree with you, definitely.
Yeah. That's a tough fight to call too. I mean, I don't want to. Yeah, I know you don't want to spend a lot of time on it. So I'm not gonna attempt to actually call that one. But if that somehow makes it onto TV, I would definitely be appreciative.
I think that's going to be a great fight, actually. Definitely.
Yeah.
yeah, that one isn't that one going to be on TV? Isn't that going to be on the?
It will. It's
prelims.
on. Yeah, I'll actually.
Or did they move that to the Fight Pass?
I'm just checking right now. It may be the Fight Pass. I'm not sure.
Well, Brenneman was supposed to be on the Fight Pass.
That's right.
What we're doing preliminary cards on Fight Pass now?
Yes.
Yeah.
The first 2 fights of the night will be on the
that
Fight
sucks.
Pass now, even for main events, actually.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I was kind of looking ahead and seeing what they were doing with that.
Oh man, I was hoping they would get rid of Facebook fights, but that sucks even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
like the Facebook
I think that's
fights.
one of the things we need to talk about actually on this show is the
Yeah,
Fight
we'll do
Pass.
that at the end there, but go ahead and make your comments on this fight here, guys.
I see Ortiz. I see Ortiz winning that one. I think it's like I said, it's going to be a great fight, and I'm looking forward to that one. So, but I think Ortiz pulls away with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you on that one. I think he's the better all-around fighter. Moraga or whatever is ranked higher, but I think Ortiz has just got the better skill set, and we've seen lower ranked fighters come in and own on higher ranked fighters before. And
Yeah. So,
I mean,
what? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. It's my bad.
rankings to me, I can see where they have the rankings, but rankings to me, I mean, it's kind of like football. Any given Sunday, it's rankings is only as good as your last fight.
Any given Saturday right now, man.
Well,
it'll be Wednesday. This one.
UFC announced there is going to be a new ranking system this year. That was kind of a sub-announcement to when they announced the Fight Pass. A sub-announcement was they're setting up an entirely new ranking system for the UFC. So
It
we
doesn't
might see
fucking
some.
matter though because they don't follow the ranking system anyway.
I'm going to put very little stock in UFC rankings. I mean,
I think it's who Big Father Dana wants who to fight who. I think that's more how it's picked. Yeah.
More or less.
It really does.
I mean, there's people on it that have said they've retired. Nick Diaz is still on it.
That's crazy to me. Yeah, the fact that Nick Diaz is still ranked on there is just, I mean, it's not like he hasn't gotten favorable enough treatment already. I mean, come on.
And hopefully I'm not the only person that thinks this, but sometimes I think Dana White would make a better fan than a president and promoter. I don't know. It's just it seems, especially within the UFC organization, and it really seems like he does play favoritism to some fighters, and I don't agree with that at all. Especially when
I think he plays a part in the matchmaking, but I don't think he's really the main person with the matchmaking. Dana White to me is kind of like the Vince McMahon of the WWE. He is the president, but he's also more of a face for the UFC. That's what I see him as.
He does, and it does. Yeah, he seems like he's the ultimate super fan to me. Like that's
Yeah, well, we all know Joe Silva is ultimately the man who.
Yeah, the matchmaker.
Yeah, Joe Silva and Sean Shelby are the matchmakers for the most part, but I'm sure Dana White has his fingers in that pot to one degree or another.
Oh yeah, he does. He definitely does, but I see him more as the face of the UFC, and everybody blames him for a lot of it, but it's not.
He's also to blame for a lot of good stuff too, I mean,
exactly.
Come on now.
Yeah, I don't even know who I would pick in that matchup we were talking about between Moraga and Ortiz, but
If you were to hold a gun to my head, I think I'd go with Ortiz as well. But Moraga's a pretty dynamic fighter.
yeah.
That's going to be a great fight to watch. Yeah. So the fights there is two that are going to be on Fight Pass, and then it's a free mini card that Fox Sport 1 is going to be putting on before the fight night. Will be where the other fights are. So.
All right, so all you guys are favoring Ortiz.
Yeah, it's a dynamic weight class.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going with Moraga, just to be
Nice.
difficult.
Nice. I like it.
All right, let's wrap that up. Let's go to the final thoughts segment here. And being that we're talking about Fight Pass already, let's continue speaking about that. Comments, fellas?
I think it's the Fight Pass. If you look at it in like a Netflix or a Hulu Plus type thing, like even the WWE's coming out with their thing, it has possibility. But the problem is the way they have it set up. The terms of service for it is horrible. I mean, it favors the UFC so badly that if they do charge you, it's going to be a miracle to get your money back. And I got a $1 charge for Fight Pass because I did sign up for it, and I canceled the subscription after I had gotten the $1 thing. But they kept sending emails to try and keep me on, and it was just it wasn't like your Hulu Plus or your Netflix where you can just click a button and unsubscribe.
Yeah.
That to me, you have to do that. They've got to put a lot more planning into this for this to actually work.
Yeah, as soon as they came out with that, I saw people bitching and complaining right away. There was a few people that said they had multiple charges for videos that were supposed to be free. And then again, too, from what I'm understanding is, if you're in the U.S., any fights that have aired on Fox Network are not going to be available on Fight Pass, and that's not really the full library as they advertised it.
No, definitely not. There's some pretty big fights on Fox. I mean, I can see. I'm sure there's some kind of proprietary thing with that between the UFC and Fox. There's probably the reason for that. But I mean, glitches like this when you're as big as the UFC are just inexcusable. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. I mean, you got some of the most loyal fans in any sport in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta make sure you're taking care of them when you do something like this.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people making the analogy that it was comparable to
NBA League or whatever.
No, it was comparable in the level of failure to Obamacare. And
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
I was literally just thinking that.
Well, the website does work, So they've got that on them.
Yeah, it all seemed to come pretty fast, actually. There had been a few hints dropped before they announced it, but yeah, the whole thing seemed to come about really, really quickly. So that was my, I guess, hesitation with actually signing up, was thinking that it wasn't actually going to be a good service.
No, I'd give it like a year or so before maybe things get hammered out.
That's probably what I'm going to do.
About, the website is functional, but it didn't have the bells and whistles it needed to make it a enjoyable viewing experience.
It was pretty hard to unsubscribe. You have to actually email them to unsubscribe, and I got like three or four email replies. It's not just okay, we're going to take you off and then a confirmation email. It's
Well, even a lot of industry insiders are complaining about it too, because again, what are you going to see on there as far as fights go? You're going to look at local fights that are airing at 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, from some other country with a bunch of fighters who you don't even know who the hell they are, So
yeah, what's the point of it even existing if that's the case?
Yeah.
I mean, if they would make it to where they opened up the entire library and stuff like that.
Well, that's how they build it.
Yes.
And give you. And not have any kind of blackout thing, because I could see it. I would pay, like I said, we've talked about this on when we weren't online recording, but I don't subscribe to cable, so I don't get Fox Sports 1. So I either go to a bar or to my brother's to watch it. But I would like to actually see them make those mini pay-per-views. I'd pay $2.99 to watch a free view card.
Yeah, there was a break. There was a breakdown of that where they said the only way this is actually really going to work is to actually put all the pay-per-views on there. But then if they did that, they'd have to charge $58 a month for the service, and
That's
then
too
nobody
much.
would get
Yeah.
the
Too
service.
much. Yeah, way too much. I mean, it's too much already. And yeah, they're charging more money for the pay-per-views nowadays. What is that? Wait, how does that work? You have twice as many pay-per-views, but you add $10 per event. I don't think that's
Yeah,
how
and
it's
they were
supposed to
actually
work.
with the Fox model, they were supposed to be reducing the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what Dana White literally
That's
comes
what
out and says, "Oh, it's not that much more money. Stop complaining." Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah,
are
well,
you out
they
of your
lowered the
mind?
price for the 170 card.
Yeah,
I
and it's
guess
just
because
like,
there
come
was a
on,
lot
man.
of stink about everybody complaining that they upped the price for 2 cards in a row, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, they really need to be stacking these cards, the pay-per-views, if they're going to charge what they're going to charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can't do that. They can't do that with the volume of cards that they're putting on. And I mean, I'm not. I moved to Boston a couple months ago, right? So I'm not around all my friends from home. So it's not easy for me to put together a little pay-per-view party and have everybody throw in $5 or $10 for pay-per-view. You know what I mean? I can't shell out $60 every month for one of these crazy $60 cards that.
Exactly, and even when you do a pay-per-view get-together with a buddy or two, even by the time you buy all the munchies and the drinks and everything, you're still spending $50 or so.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on from that. I do want to speak about a couple other things here. We're a little over an hour on the show, but that's okay because I do want to talk about these things that are in the news. The unfolding situation with Anderson Silva's broken leg and his expressed desire to return to MMA. Seeing all kinds of wacky stories out there, guys, about he's gonna be off crutches in 30 days and he's gonna be coming back sooner. I mean, I just don't buy it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you on that one.
Yeah, they were showing pictures of his leg already, and there's no cast on his leg. I mean, this happened less than a month ago, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
How the hell does he not have a cast on his leg?
Beats me, man.
He has I think it's one of those small air casts. I saw a picture that Dana White had taken of him yesterday. I guess Dana White went and visited him. A picture he had taken of him, and you could see that his left pant leg is slightly bigger. So I think it's one of those air casts.
Well, I can tell you this from experience, firsthand. I had the same exact type of injury.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I've got metal in my leg and screws in my leg, both inside and outside, but mine was more of an ankle injury than above the ankle injury. And I had to wear a cast for 3 months, so I really find that hard to believe that he's got no cast on and they're treating this with an air cast because I got the air cast after my cast came off. So I really find it hard to believe that, all these unicorns and rainbow stories that are coming out about him returning are even going to gel, because even if he does come back, he's not going to be throwing that leg.
No way.
No. And you got to remember, too, I've had a broken leg as well. When you have a broken leg, with the calcium that builds back up, you're going to have one leg that is a tiny bit shorter than the other leg. So
Exactly.
that's going to affect balance issues as well. I mean,
yeah, and also it's going to give you sciatica, because I've got sciatica from my injury.
Yeah. I feel my hip pop sometimes too. It's I can see why he has the air cast, because if he didn't break his ankle, then they're just letting the bones heal. When I had my broken leg, I had a broken ankle as well, and the ankle needed to be stabilized. But with what he's got, I can see him using an air cast if they've got rods in there.
Yeah.
Because that's holding it all together.
Yeah, but it didn't even look like they had rods in there.
They
have
1/3/8 of an inch titanium rod.
Oh, that was it?
That's it.
That sounds odd.
I read they did an interview. It's I don't know if you saw the article, but it's the full interview with the surgeon, and I guess the surgery and everything was perfectly performed. I'm not saying that Anderson should return, but I guarantee we are going to see him return. That's my opinion. I I don't think he wants to end his legacy that way.
I wouldn't either.
I mean, he's not going to be back until he's in his 40s,
Yeah.
no matter what they're saying, because
Yeah.
even after he heals up, then he's got to go through physical therapy and then training for a fight. So he's going to be in his 40s before he gets back into the octagon.
I don't think he's going to. Yeah, no. I think it's going to be at least 2 years before we see him, even like a hint of a matchup from him.
Yeah.
I agree.
And who would he fight? You know?
Yeah, the talk about the GSP is the.
That's
I don't know if that's a joke or what, because nobody wants to see that fight now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nah.
back in the day, yeah.
Legitimate reason to discuss that fight, but why is there now?
Yeah.
GSP is out. He's retired. He went out not looking good and people are going to argue with me about this constantly. But I love GSP, probably my favorite fighter in the world. But man, he just did not look good when he returned to MMA. I don't care what anybody says. That was not the GSP that we saw, prior to him coming back from that long
No, I mean we saw him get head kicked, practically head kicked to death by Carlos Condit. I mean he looked good against Nick Diaz, but I mean I don't think anyone really expected Nick Diaz's game to really match up well with GSP's. But then he got Big Rig practically mopped the floor with him. I mean come on.
Yeah.
And I actually thought Big Rig won that one. I don't know what
I'm with you on that one. Absolutely.
I don't see anybody that can that isn't Canadian that can see it any other way.
I refuse to discuss this topic.
Exactly.
You might get lynched up there. You might get
anyone who
lynched up
isn't
there
I know, right?
Anyone who isn't Canadian is not going to agree with it.
Go GSP. That's all I got. There we go.
You got that fan vote where we got the actual watch the fight vote.
No, it was.
I love the
what?
guy. I love GSP, but come on, he never really stood a chance against Anderson Silva when they were both healthy.
No, Anderson would have killed him. He would have killed him.
Yeah, I mean, he might have gotten a takedown or two.
And Sonnen exposed him. I mean, that can opener of GSP's is really good. He can control people very well. And
his takedown is second to none in my opinion. In the UFC and in the sport, I believe GSP does have that best double leg takedown.
He has the record in the UFC for the most takedowns.
Yeah, his takedown was like
unstoppable.
Like we were talking about Nolan Ryan's fastball. It's
there you go.
I'm going to throw this thing up the pipe and let's see if you can hit it. Let's see if you
deal
can
with
stop this
it.
takedown.
Yeah,
I don't think you can.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a great analogy. I like that one.
Well, I think wasn't it Big Rig who was the only one who was actually more successful stopping?
Yeah,
takedowns?
he was able to nullify that double leg pretty good. Now, in my opinion, Big Rig is by far the best wrestler GSP has ever faced.
Oh yeah, at least pedigree-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what, like I said, when I watched that fight, I tried my butt off to find 3 rounds that GSP won, and at most I could give him 2.
Yeah, me too.
At most.
Yeah, loving GSP. Yeah, I struggled to give him 2 myself.
It was tough for me, man.
Yeah, I'm a fan of his too, but I watch the fights.
Like I said, I was also happy to see him go into the twilight.
I mean, how many times have we seen him come out with his face looking like that now? You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. It's been one too many times now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know people who are arguing with me. Well, he's fighting better strikers than this. Well, fuck, man. In the old days, he was fighting the best of the best, and he never looked like that in the early days of fighting. So.
And he mopped the floor with guys back in the day. Like, he showed no fear, but then also he had the skill set to match that. He could just go in and impose his will. And it's pardon the dogs, gentlemen. He could, and then you just saw a different GSP fighter, and that was.
Well, again, too. I mean, you got to think too. When these guys are millionaires multiple times over, and they're doing commercials and movies, they're going to start to question, is it really worth going in and getting the shit beat out of myself or getting all beat up to, make – what is he making a fight?
It's $300,000 per fight he is making, and then because all of his are headline pay-per-view events, he gets that piece of the pay-per-view, and then all his celebrity endorsements. So it's significant.
Yeah, it's good money, but again, when you're a multimillionaire – is it worth it to you like that? And he's actually kind of shown that in his last
Yeah.
fights in my opinion.
He said that in one of the fights. I don't remember which one it was, but he said, I don't want to lose. I've got way more on the line here than most of the guys that I'm going up against. You know what I mean?
So true.
So people who criticize him for fighting safe, this is why. Which, is a double-edged sword, obviously, because, all right, I don't blame you for fighting safe, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to want to pay money for the Dan Hardy fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have no problem with the way that, a lot of guys don't like it, but I have no problem. A win is a win is a win. I mean, unless you're literally laying on the guy and smothering him, but that really wasn't what GSP was known for.
Well, and plus, if you can't stop the takedown, then don't complain. You know what I mean? If you want to complain about a guy laying on you, learn how to stop the takedown.
Yeah. But I don't even think he was a lay-in prayer like a lot of people.
No, he kept active. That's the thing. He would take people down, and he would stay active the whole time, go for submissions, throwing elbows, punches.
Yep.
So that is a misrepresentation of his strategy when he did become a safe fighter. He still was a very active fighter, but just in a different way, in a more safe, more precautionary way, because like you were saying, Wesley, he stood to lose so much compared to all the guys that have fought him at that point that he was at. And I mean, that goes to say with Anderson Silva as well. When you're holding the belt for that long, it becomes more and more. The pressure doesn't stop. It just keeps increasing and increasing until it gets
a target on your back,
Yeah, until it gets that bursting point, like a pot or something that's about to boil over, and then
Well, after he came back, he had already intimated that he was only looking for one more fight after Big Rig, and he was hoping that was going to be the super fight. But I'm pretty much going to say that's never going to happen now. So going forward, and you're fighting with that sort of mentality, and with the other things that we've mentioned, you could tell he was pretty much calling it a day, and he wanted to move on. So.
Yeah, he said in the past that he wanted to retire earlier. He didn't want to walk away from the sport with any brain damage or anything like that.
Yeah.
Smart.
So do you guys think he's going to come back or what? I honestly don't think he is.
I don't think he is either. I think he might come back as an ambassador to the UFC, but I don't see him coming back in a fighting role.
I don't think he doesn't have to. I don't think.
No, I don't think he has to either. I mean, he's already proved himself.
Yeah. Well, I thought maybe he might want to continue on and try to beat Anderson Silva's record, but after the way things went down, I mean, you could tell after the fight when he was interviewed by Joe Rogan, and Rogan was pressuring him to get the exclusive. As soon as GSP, mentioned the slightest little idea of maybe taking some time off. So you're retiring?
Yeah, it's like, come on, man.
Joe was going for the big exclusive there.
That's like the worst time to that's the worst time to interview a guy about things like that too.
Absolutely.
They're not thinking straight.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's kind of good though to see two kingpins of their weight classes actually give up the belt and lose the belt, because it gets stagnant having the same champion for so long. I mean, I do like seeing long-term champions, but then again, I don't. I kind of like seeing the belt change hands sometimes. I like seeing different matchups for the belt.
Yeah, for sure. I just bummed about the way it happened. I mean, from the UFC's point of view, you don't want to break the chain of title holding. You know what I mean? Like to have a champion like GSP go out technically undefeated, that doesn't look good. You know what I mean? Because now you got this new champion who's going to come in, whether it be Robbie Lawler or Johnny Hendricks, and who knows if they reign for the next 5-6 years. But they never beat GSP. There's always going to be that question, which I guess on one hand is good for the sport in the sense that you've always got that conversation like in boxing. But at the same time, it's always better. I think it's better to have it actually happen.
And if you're a true fan like us, we already pretty much gave Hendricks the belt.
I agree. Yeah.
Didn't now I may be wrong on this one, but way back in the day, it didn't Sonny Liston retired as champ, but wasn't his last fight almost in a similar way? Wasn't it questionable that he won his last fight?
Well, you're going way back now.
Way back,
This is after he got blasted by Ali.
Yeah.
It was Sonny Liston. Yeah, he.
Well, he was actually called Cassius Clay back then, wasn't he?
But yeah, Sonny Liston, he got a belt back and he retired. But I think it was kind of his legacy was still kind of intact for himself. But I think his last fight didn't go out as in that same kind of way that GSP did. But see, people down the road, people are going to forget that Johnny Hendricks lambasted him. That's what's going to happen, and that's, in a way, yeah, it is good for the sport because you do have that kind of a notable figure, and he was and still is such a great ambassador for the sport. So that does add that kind of whole mystique, a good young gentleman, that retired champion, and is still a face for the UFC. So I mean, that could be one of the positive notes you can take away from what clearly was judiciary travesty.
Yeah.
In GSP, one of the reasons I really like GSP and think he's a great ambassador for the sport is because he embraces the martial art code.
That's what I love about him. I love fighters
He didn't
like that.
trash talk. He didn't do anything like that.
Yeah.
He just went out there to fight, and that's what I'd like to see more fighters do. I could do less with the WWE and more with the UFC.
Me too.
Yeah,
That's why.
Just do the talking, so to speak.
That's probably why GSP is my favorite #1 fighter of all time.
Yeah.
For exactly what you just said.
The respect
he's a nice
is phenomenal.
Guy. I mean, he's a true martial artist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow,
But
we really got off on GSP, and that was just supposed to be a side effort there. I think it's clear to say we all love GSP.
Yeah.
People that know I love fights, that's the first topic they'll bring up with me. People from anywhere that they want to talk about GSP, he seems to be one of those popular topic guys.
He's a lovable
nice guy.
Yeah,
he's a nice
absolutely.
guy.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have to break your hearts and say he's not really one of my favorite fighters, but I definitely respect him as a champion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's never really been one of my favorites, but I mean, not like I have anything against him. He's just, I don't know.
Tell me what you don't like about him. We'll elaborate on that so we can get.
It's not necessarily something I don't like, but it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like rooting for the Yankees to me.
Okay. There you go. And you're in Boston. I can see that then for sure.
I'm not a Boston fan, though. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I'm a Philadelphia fan pretty much in every major sport.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything else on Anderson Silva? Were there any more comments that we wanted to make about him before we move on?
It just sucks to see him go out like that. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, I don't think he wants to go out like that, but with an injury like that, you don't necessarily have that choice.
I hope we get to see him go
Wes
out on a better
and I both
note.
believe it's going to be much longer than most other people think. I'm in agreement with Wes. I think it's going to be a couple of years before we see him back.
It's tough though with HGH and who knows what kind of stuff they're going to put him through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's got the best doctors too as well.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
But I would rather see him go out on that note. It's a shame to see him go out like that, but I would rather see him do that than to come back and look really bad.
Okay, so what do you think? He's going to return or he's not going to return, and when?
He's going to return, but I think he's not going to have the same skills he once had.
No way. And how long do you think it's going to be?
Oh, at least a year. At least a year, because I don't think 2 years, because he, like I said,
that's going to be a miracle, man. He's got to go through physical therapy.
Yeah, but you got to remember, he's got the doctors. The sports medicine is a science, I mean, these people that like a guy like me or you, we could have an injury like that, and it'll take us a long time to recover. But if we had access to the doctors like these guys have, our recovery time would be cut in half.
Okay, David, wrap it up. What do you think?
My prediction for Anderson will be returning for July 2015.
Wow.
And they're going to put together a big card for it. Something to put it around. Maybe they'll do that soccer stadium event.
With GSP returning.
Possibly. You know what I mean? If they've always talked about things like this. One of the things I don't like is the lack of transparency with the UFC, because they say all these hopeful things and then we're just completely led astray and we don't know what's going on. But you know what? I'd like to see that happen. Anderson back in July 2015, soccer field event. That'd be great.
Okay, let's move on real briefly on the next couple of topics, guys. We don't have much time left. We keep hearing about the rumored return of Brock Lesnar to the UFC. What do you guys hear about that?
Not a chance. No way.
From what I hear, just strictly rumors.
Yeah.
I don't see who he's beating in the top contenders. It's a no-win situation. I mean, for him, get the money, but
I guess. But I mean, does he need it? Maybe he does.
He does. I don't know, but I don't see him beating any of the top contenders. I think Travis Brown would beat him.
Handily.
Destroy him.
Because we all know that Brock Lesnar does not like to be hit.
Yeah, exactly.
Ariel Helwani, he said that this is just a rumor that just keeps on getting resurfaced, and over the past little bit, because of the announcements that, well, the GSP thing and then the Anderson Silva thing, apparently these are just rumors to kind of, I guess, keep people interested. I don't think they ever have to keep the hardcore fan interested, but I've heard that it's just strictly they're just retweeting and redoing this rumor.
For WWE mentality type shit that this guy does.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a total disgrace in that Frank Mir fight. How they could even keep him on the roster at the UFC after that fiasco.
I was so disappointed. It was nice to see him humbled a bit, though, after his next couple fights. It was awesome to see him humbled.
It was a good performance against Shane Carwin. I liked that comeback win of his.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have a real hard time with that. And,
I did too. I think Carwin actually, the fight should have been called.
Yeah, I mean, come on, 77 ground strikes, 42 got through.
But I mean, you know what? He got back up and he got the win. So. Yeah,
but the thing is, you could. That's the rebuttal to that argument. But the thing is how many fights do we see where a guy goes down, takes 5 or 6 shots, and you're not fucking defending. It's
Well, that's the subjectivity of it, right? I mean, but look at fights like who was it? Czech Congo versus Pat Barry, or Frankie Edgar, Gray Maynard 1, or even 2 for that matter. Or not,
but we're talking
I said 1 or 2, but
round strikes, and 42 got through. If 42 strikes get through while you're on the ground, that's not defending.
Carwin was lucky Kim Winslow wasn't reffing, because she would have just stood him up midway through the strikes. All right, guys, stand up.
But yeah,
right, let's move on from Brock. All right, I do want to discuss the UFC's code of conduct policy that seems to be a bit inconsistent on how they go about applying that policy in regard to who says what and how do they say it and so on and so forth.
Is there an actual written rule now?
There is, because they're actually fining fighters now for saying the wrong things.
But it's PC things. You can't say anything.
The rape man joke, the Miguel Torres fiasco, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure fighters have said things like that to other fighters multiple times, and the fighters, you just didn't hear the other fighters rat on the other fighter, To me, I think let's let
everybody know what this new issue is.
Is this coming off the stabbing threat?
I don't know what this is, but Matt Brown had
right.
Matt Brown had a new show called. He started a new podcast called Legit Man Shit, and he sat down with some radio personality guy, and they put the show together. And he was talking about women's MMA, and he was of the opinion, apparently, that women MMA fighters are boring because they lack KO power. And then what he went on to say was that he would rather see women fighting in MMA topless to make it interesting. I mean, immediately we all knew that was going to be a problem. Some people more than others probably anticipated that, but I mean, you could tell right away as soon as that was announced that he was going to have a problem with DFW, because you don't say things like that when the UFC is building up the women's divisions of MMA, and they're just adding the 115 division as well. So
they don't need that right now. That's the last thing they need.
So he actually had to issue an apology because he met with the UFC. And I found it kind of funny because everything that I'm reading, it says that he actually apologized to UFC, but his public statement really falls short of an actual apology, because what he said was publicly, he said, I have spoken with the UFC about the UFC fighter conduct policy and what is required and expected of me as a professional athlete under the terms and promotion agreement.
Yeah, that sounds very
He said the
forced.
UFC policy of inclusion and respect for all people. I understand the importance of being more aware of my actions and words. To me, that's not really apologizing.
Not at all. No.
So
he's reciting what the code is.
Yeah.
It sounds like he almost read it. He read it as he was speaking.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's all that is.
I mean, did he really make that apology, or did he just beg for his job to be spared?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. And I mean, it's interesting because I think considering the fact that I think Ronda Rousey could probably take him in a fight, he might want to rethink that.
She had the best comment because they asked her, and they're like, "Well, what do you think about Matt Brown's comments?" And she, "Matt who?"
Matt who?
Exactly.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that's great. That sums it up right there. And I don't think it takes a slight against anything to do with the women's MMA. I think all it did was, and especially the diehard fans and the people that have been following the sport, if anything, will just look at him as being someone who's maybe a little outspoken and maybe should think twice and speak once.
Well, you got to remember these are fighters too, and we do live in a PC world. And if they do ever want to get the UFC and MMA to New York, they cannot have this kind of thing happen. And I can definitely see why they have the code of conduct going in, and it should be there. I mean, morally, we all should have a code of conduct.
Absolutely.
But
But I mean, they should actually apply it evenly across the board, because then we have to turn to the incident that happened with Diego Brando and Dustin Poirier, and nothing was done about that, where, Brando threatened to stab Dustin with a pen or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little more hearsay, though. I'm not saying
he admitted saying it, and it was stab him in the neck.
Yeah.
And I guess the reason why Poirier, every time him and Brandao were in the same room, and Poirier, it's just his style, but he loves to stare down. So I guess he was just giving the eyes to Brandao.
Poirier's a pretty intense guy. He's not someone I would want. I would not want to threaten him. Yeah.
He's one of my new.
He was asked about why he made that comment. He said exactly what you're saying. He says,
Yeah.
They're bouncing it away and staring at me. I told him backstage, if you ever do that again, I'll stab you with a pen. That's what happened. He said every time he saw me at the hotel, he kept staring at me, and I responded and asked, what's the problem? He kept looking at me like that because he was hungry or what. And he says, when we got inside the cage, I thought he was scared. He got lucky to get the win.
I thought, you know what? I thought that was a great statement. Like I do like Poirier, but I thought Brandao came out with a good statement after that. That's a tough one to call, because right after I'd heard that statement, my first question was there going to be any disciplinary action that would happen to him? And that was my very first thought. And afterwards, thinking, well, they're fighters, maybe it's their mentality, But still, I guess if they're going to have that code of ethics, then make it unilateral across the board. Everybody adheres to the same code and standards, no exemptions.
Yeah, but that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing it being applied in the means of the political correctness that's
exactly
to America today.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're basically not allowed to have an opinion today because, the movement around the world is everybody must think and agree and speak the same way.
Yeah. I look at it as like the police code. You don't rat on your brothers. I don't think Poirier should have brought it up even. I mean, they're fighters. They're gonna say stupid stuff in the heat of the passion type situations. This was
maybe he was actually nervous that he was gonna stab him.
You never know, man. Some of these guys are crazy guys.
And to make a statement like that, you really can't be totally grounded when you're making a statement like that.
But it's totally different than when you're like on a talk show and you're talking and you make a statement like Matt Brown did. He should have been thinking. Whereas when you got a heat of the passion moment, you just
but the way he justified it by saying, "I didn't like the way he was bouncing around and staring at me." Something's wrong there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, these are fighters.
Like you guys aren't in prison, you know what I mean? This is not prison.
Hey,
but they're not the smartest fighters either. I mean, if they were really smart, they wouldn't be fighting.
Well,
GSP, I see as a smart fighter. He fights smart, and he's a smart guy. Yeah. You wouldn't see him say anything like that.
No, never.
He steers away from that. But you got a lot of these other fighters, and you got a lot of testosterone right there. It's heat of the passion is a dumb statement by him, but how often does that happen? That's just one fighter brought it to light. I think this happens a lot more.
Wouldn't be shocked.
I think it was just
fighters have grudges. I'm sure they make things vocal to each other. Definitely. I remember one of my favorite moments actually was back in, I think it was the late 80s, and it was a female reporter talking to Mike Tyson. I think it was like 88, 89, and a female reporter talking to Mike Tyson about his next opponent, and Mike Tyson saying he was going to eat his opponent's children.
Yeah.
And just the look on the female reporter's face. So yeah, that is something we've seen in the game for sure. On a other note,
Yeah, but that was back in the day when Mike Tyson was way the fuck out there. I mean, he was,
he was way out there.
What are you talking
Mike
about?
Tyson quotes go, that's not that bad.
Right.
well, he's not as bad now because I understand he's on some sort of medication or something. But
Yeah, he was on medication back then too, but it was illegally bought.
yeah,
A sub note on Brandao. Because of this thing with Poirier, there's something that surfaced on YouTube where he's threatening a temp that works in the Ultimate Fighter house. I guess one of the people that, like, you know how they hire people to work around the house and obviously clean up. I guess one of them got in his way, and there's a video of Brandao saying he's going to absolutely destroy them.
Well, that's two incidents that straight away. I mean, that has to be addressed because the guy obviously is a loose cannon, and one day he's probably going to go off on somebody.
Yeah, that was my thought as well too. So maybe they need to get him into some have a temporary suspension, get him into some psychology thing or something.
Anger management or something, man.
Something, absolutely.
They need to keep it in-house, though.
Yeah,
they need
absolutely
to keep that kind of stuff in-house. The PC thing, yeah, I can understand that, the code of conduct, because it gets put out there with the, but the other stuff, I really think Poirier really should have just kept his mouth shut and gone by a fighter code, and we wouldn't even be talking about this right now.
Yeah, I think the UFC could benefit a lot from what the NFL does, with their fines for hits and stupid things like that. I mean, obviously, maybe make the fine bigger or larger depending on exactly what happens.
But you'd have to fine them like $2,000 because
they
don't make that much money,
Yeah, but then
it depends on the fighter.
And you think about the impact that would have too. You find a guy $2,000 who's making maybe 10 and 10 for a fight. He might definitely think twice before he opens his mouth again. He's probably not going to be stabbing anybody with a pen anytime soon.
Well, I think if somebody actually has an issue with anger management, which appears to be the case in this instance here, I don't think the fines would make a difference.
No, probably not.
Now, since he's got more than one thing on it, and others have came to light about it, they really need to look into him and see if he should be in the UFC altogether.
Well, that's more to help him, too. This is an athlete who's trained his whole life. Someone who, even the UFC, like if you ask Dana White about Brandao, Dana White is insanely impressed with this athlete and fighter. If they want someone that would be a great representative of Brazil and someone that's a great fighter and represent their company, then I mean, you want to take him in and actually get him the help that he would need so he can go forward and still be part of the organization because he's a great fighter.
I'm going to say he's probably not the man for that job.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's just it's a bizarre situation, but I think they need to help him out and kind of get him under reins, and definitely.
Okay, guys, I know there was probably more news we wanted to talk about. This is the final thoughts segment here. Is there anything really briefly that you want to mention that we didn't speak about? Because we're an hour and a half now, so anything real brief that you want to mention?
I'm good today. I got all my good stuff out.
Wes?
Maybe just that I'm looking forward to Vanderlei Silva and Chael Sonnen.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that should be interesting.
Another
Did you see the picture?
Is that happening in Brazil or in the States?
Brazil, I believe, right?
Brazil.
Oh, my God.
If you go onto Chael's Twitter account, there's a picture of him peeing on one of Vanderlei's cars.
Man, this is, I fear for the man's safety.
I know.
He might not make it out of there, man. He might not make it out of there.
I mean, that's a rough country.
Even if he does lose, he might not make it out of there.
Yeah.
Vanderlei Silva, he goes, I promise his safety. He doesn't have anything to worry about except for when he gets into the octagon with me. That's the only time he has to worry. But
I love the way Vanderlei talks, man. It's just the funniest things,
Oh,
you hear he's running for some sort of political office?
I had not heard.
The executioner?
Vanderlei Silva, he wants to run for some sort of...
I've seen that.
Wow.
Wait, in Brazil or in America?
Wow.
In Brazil.
That's going to be funny, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I completely agree. That would be
Could you imagine his inaugural address? I mean,
Oh man,
you're gonna have to have a stenographer there and shit, and a
he's gonna be
teleprompter.
like this, you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
The microphone.
I can just imagine the guy doing it in sign language. You think the sign language thing was bad for Mandela's
oh my
thing?
goodness. One of the
Oh,
funniest
man.
things I heard
Yeah.
recently about Vanderlei Silva was it was before the Weidman fight and Silva, like Anderson coming back, and they were having, it was Silva clause, and they were like, well,
Yeah.
Anderson, what would you get these people for Christmas presents? And they got to Vanderlei Silva, and Anderson goes, plastic surgery.
Oh man.
Isn't that great?
Did you guys ever hear the story about how his kid was getting picked on when he was going to school in Las Vegas? They were picking on his kid because he was speak English, I guess, and then they had the what does your dad do day for school. Where all the dads came in and talked about their job, and he showed up. And apparently after that, none of the kids ever picked on his son again.
No.
Yeah.
No doubt. That's great.
I love Wandy, but I just
Yeah.
I don't see him being a political figure. I mean, he doesn't have the best vernacular as it is. I mean,
Well,
he's
He's kind of like Brazil's Tito Ortiz.
yeah.
yeah.
Well, Chael's already won the fight. He's already made Silva go completely insane in the fight, and that was a year before the fight even started. He's already won in my mind because he's made him lose it. So.
We'll see, man. I wouldn't be surprised if Van knocked him out.
Yeah,
He'll come out swinging like a lunatic. I guarantee.
Yeah.
We'll hopefully see the war wand of the Pride days.
And I mean, he
I
could
know
have
that Vanderlei hates Sonnen, but I don't know if Sonnen actually hates Vanderlei.
No.
you know?
No, I don't think Sonnen hates any of the guys that he fights. I think
No.
it's all for show.
Yeah, it all stemmed from the Anderson Silva thing, and he just got to Brazil, you know.
I mean, when people get
Wandy
upset
took it
about
personal.
you making a joke about a bus and hanging a carrot in front of a bus, and you know.
Oh, that was the funniest.
God, the Nogueira one where it was the they hanging.
He
They
thought it
got
was
to New York and
they
thought
all
it was
got
a horse.
upset down there.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was the
Didn't
funniest.
get much of a sense of humor down there.
No, and that's the way I see Sonnen. This is a guy that knows how to promote himself. He knows how to have fun. He knows how to entice other fighters. And then you get fighters that take it the complete wrong way.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the pre-fight chat before we did the show, where, I guess some of us are fans of his from going back to the WC days, but that's when I was really, became a fan of Chael Sonnen. And then when he made the transition into the UFC, he was a totally different guy who, came up with this new, shtick where he does the shit talking. But it took me a while to adjust to it. Didn't care for the new Chael Sonnen when he first came to the UFC, but he's grown on me. I love the guy now.
Yeah, I couldn't stand him, and now I actually like him. Like I said,
If it wasn't for that mouth, we wouldn't be talking about him right now. He would be also ran in the middleweight division.
Right.
But he's got the balls to back it up too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Going in and fighting John Jones. Come on, who wants to go fight John Jones, really? And
Exactly.
a guy from middleweight goes up to light heavyweight and fights John Jones.
Yeah.
He's got balls.
Yeah.
Well, those are
gotta
those
give
are
him
the
respect.
They're
He ain't
anything
scared,
that.
homie.
Yeah, he's not scared of anybody. I love Sonnen. I think.
I love him.
Yeah,
too.
I was thrown off at
I
his.
used to hate him. I love him.
At his demeanor
Yeah,
and the
kind
way
of when
he
you guys are
was. Yeah, at his demeanor and the way he was, I'm like, who the hell does he think he is coming into the UFC and acting like this?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I saw what the purpose was, and it completely changed my mind. I'm like, this is a great guy, and this is actually, the UFC does need their heel. And
Exactly.
Exactly.
Dana White made a really good comparison between him and Muhammad Ali. Back in the day, you think, I don't remember who it was, but they asked him, hey champ, what do you think about your opponent? And Muhammad Ali's like, isn't he ugly? Isn't he ugly? You can't have a champion that ugly.
Yep.
Classic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to keep the WWE as far away from the UFC as possible, but I still can't help but love fucking Sonnen.
I don't think Sonnen does things on the level of WWE because,
not
like you
really.
said earlier, WWE mentality was what Brock Lesnar was doing, and I found that totally offensive.
Yeah.
Now, I see it as kind of WWE. I mean, promoting the way he promoted his fights, but it's grown on me. But I don't want to see more of it. I want to see Sonnen do it You know,
no one else, just him.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
can do it
want
like
to see
Sonnen. You know, you can do if you have your own style. I guess I don't have a problem with it, but you know, I don't know. A lot of times when a lot of fighters do it, it just comes off as just trashy.
Yeah, the more you have doing it, the weaker the sport looks. You know, I'd rather just have Sonnen and be the clown and keep the UFC and let the WWE be the WWE.
Yeah, I'll buy that. All right, guys, that's the end of the show. I want to thank you all for taking the time to join me today. We'll do a follow-up show, another MMA Live Chat Hour show on Thursday, January 16th. You guys are all free to join me on that if you want. And what we'll do is we'll do the post-event discussion, and we'll go over the picks that we made today.
All right.
You guys want to say goodbye to anybody? Now's the time to do it.
Just want to say goodbye to all the people that are going to be watching and the loyal members of the forums.
Absolutely.
Yep, and everybody have a great time watching the fights on Wednesday, and hopefully our picks turn out good.
Yeah, enjoy the show, everybody, and hopefully we'll have something to talk about afterwards.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, guys, again, thanks a lot. I truly appreciate you all showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you a lot,
Thank you,
Rich.
Rich.
All righty, you all have a good one, and we'll see you next time.
You too. Take it easy.
Everyone have a great day.